Think about that. And what kind of folks are they? And it's not that they're evil, although a few of them have evil intent, but it is that they are totally, sincerely committed to the belief that you and I are stupid and that they have an obligation to govern us and to change us in ways that are appropriate.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Today, I have Newt Gingrich talking about the DOJ. Now, yes, we all know what the DOJ has been up to lately, not correctly handling their business. Now, let's get into it.
Now, the question which Hillsdale College asked me to talk about, what to do about the Justice Department, is actually part of a much bigger question. How do we decisively take power from a deeply entrenched radical elite that controls the commanding heights, to use Lenin's term? Scott Rasmussen, who I recommend highly if you haven't looked at it, has done a brilliant study. He figured out that there's a 1% of the elite, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, et cetera, and he has three things. You have to graduate from those schools with a graduate degree, not just go to school, graduate degree, earn 150,000 or more as a family, and live in a big city. And if you're in that group, you are so radically different from the rest of us that it's astounding. In fact, Scott makes the point that, for example, when asked the question, would you be willing to steal an election rather than lose it? 7% of the American people say yes. 67% of the elites say yes, which he said in his entire career of polling, is the most frightening single figure he ever saw. And when you go through all of their values, they are so far to the left of the rest of us and so willing to use their power to impose it. Remember, these are the people who run the government, the people who run the news media, the people who run the universities, and increasingly, the people who run the largest corporations. It was captured beyond Rasmussen by Charles Murray in a remarkable book.
That's why I've said over and over again on my channel that the people, I call them the evil powers that be. This is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, of course, a Republican, and he served as Speaker of the House under Bill Clinton, from 95 to 99. And he's saying that 67% of the elites, the top 1% who went to those prestigious schools, who earn a ton of money, they control the media, the universities, and increasingly corporations. That's why you see the similarity in the media. A lot of them belong to the Democrat Party. Schools, the same things are being taught. In the corporations, it is CRT, not the corporations. In the schools, is CRT. And the corporations is DEI. That's all that woke stuff that the elites push, because the idea is control. And so they have to control how we think. And they're starting very young. It even goes into the elementary school system with drag queens and different things and CRT being taught in the school system. So the schools have CRT, the corporations have DEI. And they make it sound like something good. It has a nice sounding academic inclusive name like DEI. But what it really is, when you dig into the nuts and bolts and don't fall for the surface level BS, is really about mind control. That is what it is. And you see it in the universities, with all of the anti-Israel sentiment and the bullying of Jewish students. They're taking over buildings. It's chaos. Everything the left does is horrible. Not one thing is right. And so it's up to us it's incumbent upon us to vote correctly coming up at the local, state, and federal levels. We have to vote with facts, not our feelings. Don't let something that Donald Trump says in jest cause you to go not look at his policies. And don't believe the media. He just said that they're over the media.
Very simply went and looked at zip codes and reported that if you went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, et cetera, you married people who went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, et cetera. You lived in a zip code with people who are from Harvard, Princeton, Yale, et cetera. During the period of the rise of Trump, I kept saying to the elite reporters, none of you get it, because The Apprentice, which was a very successful show for 13 years, was not on PBS right after Downton Abbey. And therefore, no one in your social circle ever saw it, and you had no idea how Trump would be effective on television. But this is who they are. These are the people who want to run the rest of us, and it's very clear, both in the Rasmussen study and in Charles Murray's book. These people believe they are our superiors, that it is their duty and their moral right to dictate to the rest of us. And let me say in that context, one of the reasons I was thrilled to be here tonight. In Star Wars, the Galactic Empire is trying to establish totalitarian control over the entire universe. And there is a resistance. And ultimately, of course, as you know, the resistance wins. Well, I have to tell you, when I'm here tonight with Larry Arnn and the rest of you, I feel like I'm at the heart of the resistance, and I am confident we will win. However, real victory is not one election. Anthony Jay was a senior advisor to Margaret Thatcher. And based on the things that they encountered in the government, he created a brilliant series, which I recommend to all of you, which became a series of books and TV shows called Yes, Minister and Yes, Prime Minister. It is the best study of the depth of the civil service undermining, blocking, diverting the elected officials ever written. And it's true. I was struck, Paul Wolfowitz, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, said to me one day, the attitude in the Pentagon is that the presidential appointees are the summer help. And all they have to do is wait. And the summer help leaves. I was reminded when I was a freshman, I was pro-defense, and back in 1979 under Jimmy Carter, if you were pro-defense, the Defense Department loved you. So the CNO, Chief of Naval Operations, invited me over one afternoon for coffee, or maybe I invited myself, but he said yes. And we're chatting, and he says to me, you realize that Jimmy Carter wanted to turn the U.S. Navy into an ambulance service for the North Atlantic. And on behalf of a 200-year tradition, I, by God, blocked him. And I remember, I happened to agree with him on the policy, but I remember standing there thinking, let me get this straight. The Chief of Naval Operations just told me that he deliberately blocked the Commander-in-Chief, who had been elected by the American people. And I think that is, at its core, the attitude of the entire federal bureaucracy. Mike Pompeo said to me one day that one of his top staff people said to him, you realize, boss, that there are about 25 of us and 27,000 of them in the State Department, and it's kind of like Fort Apache, the Bronx. We're just trying to hold on. Lincoln, to give you a sense of scale, Abraham Lincoln comes into office, replaces 3/4 of the federal employees. 3/4. Every postmaster, every customs officer, and puts into those places people loyal to him. It's probably the key to how he sustains the Union through 4 years of bitter, painful Civil War. Today, because of the growth of the civil service system, the civil service is permanent. And unless we're prepared to go into office and fundamentally change that fact and return the government to the people, we don't currently have government of the people, by the people, and for the people, to quote Lincoln. We have government of the elites, by the elites, and for the elites. And the rest of us are allowed to complain. Now, if you want to change that, you have to be prepared for very dramatic and very deep changes. And that means that if the election of 24 works out, you're going to have conflict in 25, 26, 27, 28, and maybe another 8 or 10 years. Remember, this system began to grow up under Franklin Delano Roosevelt 89 years ago. So this thing has been growing for almost 9 decades. By the way, that's longer than Lincoln's described 7 in the Gettysburg Address. Now think about that. And what kind of folks are they? And it's not that they're evil, although a few of them have evil intent, but it is that they are totally, sincerely committed to the belief that you and I are stupid and that they have an obligation to govern us and to change us in ways that are appropriate. Now,
Yeah, he was saying that Abraham Lincoln, what he said right now just really stood out to me, that Abraham Lincoln went in and replaced 3/4 of the government in order for things, and replaced them with people that were loyal to him. So that reminds me of who and what he should do when he's elected. So that's a good idea, and hopefully that is what happens. That's going to take a little bit of a bit of work. And to think that these so-called elites, the 1%ers, think that the rest of us are stupid, that we need to be told what to do. See, the elites, the left, they want communism. They don't want capitalism. They don't want freedom. They want us to be dictated to, and they want to be the dictators. They falsely claim that that is what Donald Trump wants. Donald Trump wants freedom, freedom of religion, freedom to be in whatever business you want to be in, freedom to educate your children the way you see fit, freedom to have the kind of stove or car that you wish to use. He's all about freedom. He's not about dictatorship. Those lies are coming from the mainstream media, the left, the demon rats. That's where there's coming from.
change that, I think, is an enormous problem. And I would just say to you that Lincoln understood if you truly believe in government by the people, then you have to believe in government by the people. And the rise, starting with, in many ways, with Woodrow Wilson's works in the late 19th century. Wilson was an academic who was absolutely committed to the progressive idea that there are a small, select group of experts who should govern the country because they could do it so much smarter than the rest of us. A point which Scott Rasmussen told me one of the most stunning conversations he had in doing his interviews was with a Harvard professor who said to him, why won't they just let us make the decisions? It's what we are trained to do. They have to understand the depth, the sincerity. These are not hypocritical people. These are totally sincere totalitarians who believe that if only you would relax, your life would become better because they are so much smarter and better trained than you are. Now, in that context, you also have to understand that government from Roosevelt on has attracted people to the bureaucracies who come in part because they believe they can make your life better if only you will get out of the way. And so they would like to dictate to you on virtually every aspect of your life, from whether or not you can have a gas stove, to whether or not your child actually should be transgender, to whether or not, in fact, you should learn that George Washington was a racist who kept slaves and therefore should not be studied. Just go down the list. And this has been growing. I've done a whole series at the American Spectator, starting in 1960, on the growth of where we have, how have we gotten this far off track? And the reason is that there is a core group of beliefs assimilated by more and more people, largely in the academy, and then transmitted through the news media, through politicians, through the bureaucracy, that are just insane. So if you go back and think about it, in the 1960s, the Department of Justice became a centerpiece for left-wing liberal lawyers who were going to break segregation in the South. Now, I happen to believe, as a guy born in Pennsylvania who grew up in an integrated U.S. Army and who experienced segregation as a young person when my dad was stationed in Georgia, I happen to believe ending segregation was morally and historically totally correct. On the other hand, those people who had decided how smart they were and how dumb we were then just shifted gears.
So that was Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House from 95 to 99. He's a Republican, and he was speaking at Hillsdale College. So, yeah, everything that he is saying, I see. He mentioned right after I mentioned it, I have never seen this before, that they want to determine for us what kind of stove we should use. They also want to determine what kind of car you want to drive, or should drive, how your children should be educated, whether or not your child who wants to do something to their bodies, they should be able to do it without the parents knowing anything about it. Even at very young ages, they want to take away parental rights from the parents. That is absolutely insane. And these progressive things have been happening decades upon decades ago. He named some previous presidents: Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson. They were Democrats, of course. Horrible. And the good presidents like Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump are the good presidents, and they happen to be all Republicans. So we can sit here and act like, the Republicans are the racists. That's not true. The policies don't indicate that. Only the media is telling you that. Only the Democrats are telling you that. So just because someone is telling you something, are they telling you the truth? Well, then you need to find out whether or not they are telling you the truth. That means we have to do our own research. That means we do not depend on someone to spoon feed us information. Don't be spoon fed. Be articulate, be intelligent, study, most importantly, pray for those of you who are believers to know the truth. Ask God to show you the truth. Ask God, is this true what this person is saying? Look into it. Don't just harden your hearts and not listen, because this country is being prepped for communism. And you see it everywhere. You can't even have free speech. You can't even say certain things. That's proof right there that they're prepping us for communism. You can't say certain things. You can't educate your children the way you want to. You can't do this. You can't do that. And yet, and still in the same mouth, out the other side of their mouth, say the other side is a dictator. That is insanity. That is not the truth. Look at the facts. Don't go by feelings. Don't get all worked up and believe the media. The media is bought out and paid for by the elites, which are primarily Democrats. Evil powers that be. We have to see what is going on. I hope you all do. I hope you all get it. You all give me your comments of what you think about what Newt Gingrich just stated here, and I can input the link in the description, but I pretty much went over the whole thing. Well, you all be blessed. Thank you all so much for watching me this far. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure your notifications work. Some of you have complained that they don't work. Make sure they work. You may have to turn them off and turn them back on again. And also follow me, Rumble, ChatWithMeLindaB, but please type it in as one word. Really follow me there and share my videos on Rumble. Like and comment and follow. Do all the things there, because I need that channel to grow. And I'm on my way to 40,000 subscribers this month, in the month of June, you guys. I need your help. I did not make my last month goal. I was short maybe about 1,300 and something not votes, 1,300 and something subscribers, about 1,400 shy of my goal, but I need to make those goals. Thank you all so much. You all be blessed. Don't forget to love God, love your families, these United States of America. And as I always say, march on, warriors.